Was there ever a moment during one of our scenes together when you were looking at me in the scene where you thought,
I could do it better than that?
The Superman movie has officially come out, James Gunn's Superman. I was pleasantly surprised. I know you saw it earlier this week. What were your thoughts when you left the theater?
I thought it was mid. I was primed to really hate this based on the marketing, but in the end, I just thought it was like middle of the road, maybe lying more towards not liking it than liking it. As soon as the movie was over, I didn't stay for the credits. I got out of the theater. So that's unusual because I will stay for the credits. Maybe that says something about my connection to this movie.
I also expected to hate it. I went into this thinking that this was going to be terrible, but the whole time I was in the theater and watching it, I was enjoying it. And I just thought it was really refreshing. It was like an unapologetically comic book movie. It didn't have the baggage of a million different cameos. Yes, there were a lot of characters, but I thought that it was done as well as I could have hoped for. It wasn't perfect, and I do have some critiques, but those all came from reflecting on it when I had left the theater. My actual viewing experience, I was having a lot of fun. You can tell that James Gunn made this. What did you think about the so-called the Gunn humor of it all?
There's a lot of the Gunn humor that I appreciated. Unfortunately, one of the things that I didn't appreciate was crypto. And that was disappointing for me because I was kind of low-key excited when Gunn said he was going to put crypto in the movie. Because I was like, God damn it, it takes balls to do this. So I was ready to give him total credit for it. But spoilers, guys, it turns out that crypto is very important to the movie, unfortunately. And you probably feel the opposite from me.
I loved crypto. I didn't expect to, but I appreciated the relief that he had to this movie, and it was just feel good. When Clark Kent woke up at his parents' house and crypto was just on his chest, that was just heartwarming. This dog needs to be trained.
One of the disappointing things is that if you saw the first hour of the movie, that was like all of the marketing that was put out. Basically just sat there in the theater like, oh my God, I've seen this, and I've been disappointed by this. Give me something else. For like literally half the movie, I just was sitting there. And I was just waiting for something, different to happen that I hadn't seen before.
You're right. Most of this, the first half, we had seen already. And yeah, there were quite a few moments where I was like, okay, I know what happens in this scene because we've seen it. So I kind of wish that I hadn't watched as many trailers as I had and that they hadn't released so much. They needed to because they needed to get butts in seats. I just think there was probably a better way to go about that without revealing all of the big moments and everything that was going to happen. I think that they did probably reveal too much, but it's a Superman story. You kind of know what to expect. This movie doesn't give that much backstory. You just jump right in. And it does have some monologues and some explanations, but there were moments that I wished that we kind of knew more about these characters. And that's hard to do because there were so many characters. For Lex specifically, I didn't understand. We've seen in previous versions why he hates Superman so much, but we didn't see in this version. You didn't have his motivation, so he's doing all of these really messed up things, and you don't really know why. So that's something that I just wish that we got a little bit more of. But of course, there's the time constraints. You can't get into every character because there were a lot.
And that was one of my fears about this movie because it felt like it was going to be overstuffed. And I ultimately did not feel, referring back to something that you just mentioned, that it was a Superman movie. It's a DCU movie that had Superman in it. And I'm sure that some intrepid person out there is actually going to go back and track the actual screen time of characters. I would not be surprised if he doesn't have the most screen time in this movie. I felt like the cast was good. David Corenswet did as well as he could possibly do as Superman. I have a problem with us not getting enough Clark Kent, and the Clark Kent that we did get was pretty much emotionally immature. Lex was also very emotionally immature, and I have never said it in any other Superman movie that I've watched, but Lois was actually the most headed and most developed character of the trio.
Rachel Brosnahan did a great job, and all three of these actors did really well with what they were given. But yeah, she was making moves. She saved the day at the end, really. Yeah, I get what you mean, because with the immaturity of Clark Kent in particular, it did kind of throw me off. And his whole speech about I am human, I have all these emotions, it didn't really feel like Superman to me. And I think that's kind of a problem, because you have this huge character with this legacy attached to him. You can do something new, but it didn't feel like you got the core of this character right. Lex and Superman, I could see the Gunn in them, the James Gunn for sure. Was this a good start for them?
I'm going to say no, with no doubt. I've heard a lot of people say it, and I believe it's true. This should have been the Iron Man of the DCU. Yeah, this was not a good start. I need to ask you this question, because I think a lot of people are going to hang how they feel about the movie based on this change. How did you feel about the reveal that Jor-El and Lara, Clark's parents, were actually wanting him to take the planet over and rule over it like a king?
I was so surprised that felt like kind of an afterthought. We should have spent more time digesting that and processing that. How Superman's processing that. I didn't think about that. Sure, it happened, really. That just kind of makes me think about how much was stuffed into this movie. But I didn't particularly have a problem with it. I had a problem with how it was handled afterwards. I think it should have had more of an impact than it did.
The way it was handled, he had just saved everybody, and then all of a sudden, all these news reports flash upon the buildings that Lex translated the message and found out that he was sent to rule over Earth. And then everybody went from loving him to absolutely hating him and throwing shit at his head. You could kind of tell that because of James Gunn's history with social media, it was almost like a character in this movie. We had everybody taking selfies and taking videos so that they could upload them to social media. And we did get hashtag super shit. That actually happened. A lot of this movie just totally frustrated me. It really does feels like James Gunn's Superman. It doesn't feel like Superman. I think James Gunn must kind of imagine himself as Superman, at least the way that it was presented in this movie, how he was so kind and, he was even saving squirrels. But I think he's actually more like Lex, to be honest with you. He really needed to take himself out of this equation. And if he was able to do that, then this would have been a better general audience movie. And unfortunately, it's been divisive. Like, most people either love it or hate it. And I'm in the middle, but more toward the not liking it so much. I don't hate it because I think there's a lot of positivity to be found in it. But if we're saying that this is the movie that you're starting off your DCU with as a Superman movie, it's not that. It's a DCU movie with Superman in it. And this was not what they needed. Warner Brothers Discovery needed this to be knocked out of the park. And I don't know, maybe this is like more of a bunt.
It was a solid start for me, but definitely not the best that they could have done. So we will just have to wait and see how this plays out now.
I think the reason why I don't absolutely hate it is because I do see how people can like the movie. I feel like it's more geared toward kids, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, TikTok generation. They may like this. There are things in it to like, but as somebody that actually had an attachment to Superman, the character, I don't really care about anything that comes out after. I'm not eagerly anticipating Supergirl. I was quite surprised that this was a James Gunn movie. I kind of feel like he's taken the role of the unreliable narrator. I think he kind of looked at this as his own personal fanfic. I don't recommend it necessarily, but I do see how some people may like this. So if you're interested, go see it. I can only give my opinion. I can't give my recommendation.
Fair enough. Do you have a final rating for the film?
5.5.
I would probably be an 8. Maybe a 7.5. I really enjoyed it, but the farther I get from it, the more nitpicks I find. So I think I'll go with a 7.5.